So, my guests today are Louise Francis and Laura Knight from FrancisKnight. They are award-winning public art specialists who commission professional artists to create bold and ambitious artworks for the public realm. FrancisKnight work with clients throughout the commissioning process to successful completion, providing expert consultancy advice at the earliest stages of master planning, all the way through artist selection and project management to installation and beyond. And Louise and Laura have a long-held passion for the arts and bring their individual interests and strengths to the business, working closely in partnership together alongside housing associations, property developers, local authorities, community groups, funders, and of course artists. So I'm really excited to have them here today. Welcome, Louise and Laura.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you.
So obviously the theme of this podcast series is all about business as force for good. So I want to kick off by asking you the question that I ask everyone, which is, what does business as a force for good mean for you, and how does that relate to what you do?
It's a question we knew you'd ask, and we had to ask it to ourselves actually. So I think in terms of what we do, obviously we commission artists, and in terms of the good that brings, the essence of it comes back to placemaking for us. It's about working with developers mainly on new developments, I would say. I think that's fair to say, isn't it? And us getting underneath the skin of a place, and the artist does that, so that when you have new people move in, or when you're looking to bring communities together, existing and new, that there's something to link them back to the place that they're in. So I think that's where we come in.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I think it's really important when, we've got a lot of development going on in Kent, and rightfully so, some people aren't happy about that development. And wherever you live, it has to be a place that you want to live, and it's got some lovely things about it, and there's a reason for you moving there. And I think for us, working with artists, they just bring something special to a place. They can find things out, research things. And it's also giving people, as Louise mentioned, a voice, so that they feel that they have been spoken to and consulted with. And it's really important that we don't just helicopter things into places. So I would like to think that FrancisKnight provides that platform for those lovely moments to happen, or for someone to turn around a corner and see something incredible, or to sit down on something and think, oh, this is nice, and not actually realise that it's some public art, but there's a reason behind it, there's a meaning behind it. I think that's the essence of what we mean by doing something for good.
Yeah, no, it obviously has a very tangible kind of output. What you do is something that people can see and touch sometimes, and like you say, it's often woven into fabric of people's daily lives, so they're seeing, engaging with it on a regular basis, really great that you get to see that happening.
And sometimes people will just stumble across it, and it'd be quite subtle. Some of the work we do is quite subtle. So you will, as Laura said, you might sit on a bench and there might be some words carved into the bench, or there might be something underfoot that recognises, the industrial heritage of a place, for example. So I think artists are just such good researchers and communicators, and full of ideas really that nobody else will have thought about. They'll pick on a single thread, and that will be the focus of their work.
It's uncovering things that may have got lost.
I think because I think people think new developments, that's going to wipe everything out and then you'll start again and it's going to be wonderful. But actually, it's not. It's really important to remember what's been in the past, and then to reflect on the future as well. And I think that is really important. And artists are the people that can create that and do that, along with design teams and architects and public art consultants. But the essence is that it comes back down to that artist, that they are thinkers, and they express that in an incredible way, and makes our job a lovely thing to do.
Yeah, really satisfying.
Yeah,
and enjoyable. We were very lucky to do work that you love, and work with really talented people.
Yeah, I think we are. Lucky. Yeah, that has its moments, but we are lucky.
So that leads me really nicely into my next question. Obviously, I gave a little bit of an introduction about who you are, what you do, but I want to invite you to share a little bit more about that, and also the journey that you've been on to this point. Because obviously you have worked together before setting up this business, and you've had a long involvement in arts and culture even before setting up this consultancy. So I just want to ask you to share a little bit more about that journey that you've been on, and maybe reflect on some of the lessons that you've learned along the way.
Yeah, many lessons. I mean, we've been in business over 17 years, 18 years this year, so we're not a new consultancy at all. But I think over the time of being in business, we have shifted our focus. I wouldn't say that when we first started out, we necessarily classified ourselves as public art consultants, although in fact our first ever project was a public art project. So we were kind of going in that direction from day one. And it was a temporary public art project. But, essentially our background is as arts officers in local authority, separate local authorities, but then came together through a job share, and we've done all sorts of things, a lot of gallery-based work, curating, but also literary events, event-based activities. So there's been a whole range, and we've been part of arts teams across Kent, so it's been quite varied. And then we kind of got very frustrated with bureaucracy, and also we're both Pisceans and we don't like being told what to do. So I think there's an element of that.
We wanted to control our destiny.
We have more freedom now. Creative freedom.
Yes, we do have freedoms to a degree, and it's true, it's bureaucracy. Okay, we still have some bureaucracy in some of the work that we do, but it's just more liberating because we make those decisions about what we want to do and what we don't want to do. But yes, I think so. Yes, we cut our teeth really in local authority, which was a great grounding, and it was, we did do some incredible things and some lovely things. But I think it was that moment of thinking, okay, we'd like to just move away from this, but continue in the way that we want to continue. So we started FrancisKnight really, and we would just, take it in turns working at each other's kitchen tables, and we met some incredible people and started doing some incredible projects, and it kind of grew. But I think some of the lessons were that actually you just need to do it if you want to do it. I think people were quite surprised when we left. They were, oh, you're so brave. It was quite a lot. And I was just like, well, actually, it's not right, and we know what we want to do, and so you've got to just make that leap, really. Yeah. And of course, running a business is can be a scary thing, isn't it?
I think we're HR, we're
everything.
We're accountants, we're marketeers. Well, we're not really marketeers.
No, we're not.
That's why we work with you.
And
but we have been to a point. We've been all of those roles, and I think that's the variety is good. But in terms of lessons learned, I think we definitely have learnt more and more to trust our instinct on projects, and that's been really crucial in deciding what we take on. And we're not lucky, because it's hard work actually. We have clients come to us rather than us having to reach out for so much business now. I mean, that still has to happen. We still have to let people know what we do, because we're kind of niche. People don't necessarily, if people ask us what we do and we say we're public art consultants, but people might take a step back and go, oh,
that's unusual.
What's that? Yeah. That's unusual. But obviously in the field that we're working, that is known, and people do need it. So trusting instinct for clients. And we had this motto when we first started out, which was work with nice people on creative projects. And I think it still stands actually. I think it still stands for us. It's quite simple, but it's definitely a motto we kind of carry with us.
And I think when you run a business anyway, you have to grow and change as things change and grow around you. And we have done that, and we've adapted. And we're striking a great balance at the moment with the projects that we're working on, that we have enough, but we can do them properly and spend time on them, and getting positive results from them as well, I think. We're working with some incredible artists too, and we're lucky to... No, we're not lucky, I keep saying that, but it's encouraging that there are so many creative artists out there that, you know, we can work with that do some incredible work, amazing work. But as they say, behind every great artist there's a really good public art consultancy, and they're kind of helping to make sure that it all runs smoothly. Yeah. And, you know, we're the swans in the background, kind of just making sure it happens.
If you'd like to make your business a greater force for good, increase your impact and income while fulfilling your passion, purpose and potential, then the Get Fruitful Marketing Health Check is a great place for you to start. It's all online and can be accessed from the Get Fruitful homepage, getfruitfulmarketing.com. The health check takes just 3 minutes and will give you an instant personalised report with insights to make your marketing more fruitful. So hop on to getfruitfulmarketing.com, take your health check now and make your marketing more fruitful today. What inspires you in your work? Kind of what motivates you to do what you do? What's the sort of purpose that drives you?
I mean, ultimately it's the passion for art, I suppose, if it comes down to it, and artists and what they do, and holding on to the fact that we create some space in the process for artists to create, because I think without that there's so much red tape and so many demands from people, so many deadlines that we kind of we open up the creative space for the artist. We keep the client away from the artist, and we keep the artist away from the client. So there's this little space in the middle, and at that point, as public art consultants, we can work both. But what's particularly rewarding is when we do the exchange or the collaboration with the artist, because we become part of the creative process with them. Because we are, you know, Laura and I are failed artists. You know, let's not beat around the bush about it. We both come through an arts education. We both went to art college. We both graduated. We both tried to be freelance artists. I certainly did.
I tried.
And
it's tough though.
Yes,
it's really tough to
and
make
it's
it professional.
Not perhaps that we failed, but that we were better at arts administration, and I suppose that's the path we ended up taking separately. But that's where we met together, in the arts administration, because we are planners, and so we can organise our artists without them feeling like they're being organised.
In a helpful way rather than in a way that constrains them or makes them feel pressured.
Yeah, as Louise says, it gives them the space to be able to do what they want to do, you know, to do the work that they need to do. And equally, we're of course we're managing the clients at the same time, but without them knowing. But yeah, it's I suppose we are failed artists, but as Louise mentions, we feel we're part of that creative process, and that keeps you working, keeps you going on those projects.
And I guess what you sort of touched on there as well is about being part of a team and sort of working very closely with a range of different people from different disciplines, which I know is really core to your work as well. Kind of collaboration being really central, so that's obviously something that motivates you.
I think
part of something bigger.
I think also sometimes by bringing the artist on board to the design team, it also allows the design team to start looking in different ways and maybe doing some things that maybe they feel constrained that they couldn't do. So I'd like to think that we kind of help that process as well.
Great. So looking ahead to the future, what do you feel is coming down the line for you? What are you working towards? Either a big goal or a next step?
I mean, I would say the business has always been quite organic, but
it's your Piscean going with the flow.
In both different directions.
Yeah, no, it is quite organic, but we purposefully moved into working with developers, and I think that's grown more and more. So we do a combination of projects actually. We try not to put all our eggs in one basket, I suppose, but we do a combination of sort of local authority, regeneration-led projects and new developments with major housing builders. But I think those developments are coming forward more and more. They seem to be anyway. And I would say we've secured one of our biggest projects to date recently. Talking about a large amount of houses being built in the southeast, and we are able to we're able to get in at the very start of the process. That is always the best way for us to be. And we are doing that with one particular project that's coming forward, and I think that sort of sets the standard for us really. Bringing in a principal artist, getting them to work with the design team, and then that rolling out into a series of commissions that are really thoughtful, meaningful to the place. So that's the direction we want to continue going, I think.
I think we're working more and more with advisory groups as well, aren't we, and with engagement. So I think that those voices are being heard more as well, which is really, it's part of the process, and it's very important. And you're not, then as we've said at the beginning of this podcast, we're not helicoptering and plonking things in somewhere and people go, oh, what's that? Where's that come from? So there is meaning to it. Yeah.
It's one well considered, thought through.
Or just community is able to respond to, and hear the narrative. And hear the narrative behind the artwork, because I think sometimes that story gets lost. So the artwork arrives and people will always have an opinion, but there is a backstory to it, and it's kind of bringing people along the journey. We don't just plonk the work, there is a whole series of processes to get to the point where the artwork's signed off and installed. I mean, that's kind of way down the line really. There's so much work in the lead up to that.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you. So we're going to wrap up in a moment. I'll invite you to share your contact details if anyone wants to find out more about you and your work, so they can get in touch. But before we do that, as a last question, I'd just like to ask if you have a top tip or some words of advice that you'd like to share for other people who perhaps are just starting out in business, or maybe are more established already, particularly if they want to make their business a force for good. What would you like to share to them?
Well, I think you mentioned it, Louise. Trust your instinct. That's really important. It's not always. It's not always about the money, actually.
There's a real balance with running your own business. I think that you truly believe in what you're doing, because as we've said earlier, we do we cover all sorts of roles in our project and in our projects, and I think that doesn't matter if you truly believe in what you're doing. But I think the instinct thing, there are often projects that come in and we kind of go, oh, that's interesting. It's almost kind of like the golden egg. And you look at it and you go, oh, that sounds like a really interesting project. And then, there's two of us. We're able to bounce things off each other and take some time to consider what we might want to do. But we have a set of principles that we work to, and we bring those, if we're not sure, we bring those back to the table and kind of say, is it doing this for us? Is it doing that for us? So it's really truly understanding what our guiding principles are, I suppose, which you helped us do actually, Anwin, which was kind of, unpicking why we're in business and what we didn't want to happen as much as what we do want to happen. And I think, we've had a few challenges throughout our running our business, and some of those have stayed with us. We don't want them to happen again. So we are always learning from every project. Is so different. Every artist we work with, every client we work with is so different, and we always take some learning away from it and take it to the next project.
And that's why you get better and better.
Yeah. One of these days we'll have the perfect project.
No, it doesn't exist.
Well, they're all perfect in their own way. Because they're so unique, as you say, every project is totally unique and completely sort of custom.
There's no
made.
formula.
Yeah.
There's no formula to what we do. Well, I mean, there are processes, but there's no one formula. We have to consider at every stage what direction we're going to take.
Yeah, fascinating work that you do. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing a bit about it and
You're
giving us some
welcome.
insight into your work. So yeah, if people want to find out more about you, where should they go?
You could look at our lovely website, www.FrancisKnight.co.uk.
You can follow our social media platforms. We are Artbirds on Twitter. On Instagram, I think we're Francis Knight Art Consultancy. I would look at Francis Knight and you will find us.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure talking with you, and I'm sure our listeners will have taken lots of fascinating insights. So yeah, thank you again.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this conversation, please do hit the like, comment and share buttons to help us reach a wider audience and grow the potential for business to be a greater force for good in the world. And do subscribe if you would like to receive notifications when we release new episodes. Thanks for listening.